Good to see you, everyone. My name is Robbie Howell, and I am back once again with Pwner of Souls. We're going to be doing a live cast, or I guess a cast of a recording of a game he played on his awesome mod, EMPIRECRAFT. If you haven't seen my video that I did on EMPIRECRAFT, take a look in the top right of your screen right now, and link is in the description below. I got a lot of comments on that video of people asking to see full gameplay, as well as getting a review of all of the available civilizations. And so that is what we are going to do today. Pwner, if you wouldn't mind reintroducing yourselves and setting the stage for this game before we dive in, that would be awesome.
Yeah, hi, I am Pwner of Souls, the creator of EMPIRECRAFT, and what I have for you here is a recorded game that I did with a good friend of mine, Sad Bear, who is also a really good modder and the creator of the Fast Villager Defense mod, probably the most played mod in Age of Empires, so
Wow.
Very kind of him to jump in.
That's fantastic. And just to quickly set the stage, on screen right now we have a full overview of the map before we dive in, and I gotta point out that it is a symmetrical map, and beautifully so, I might add. Are there any other focal points on the map that people should be paying attention to during the cast before we dive in?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got it paused right now, so I'll go over kind of a couple of key features of a typical EMPIRECRAFT map.
Please.
And as you can see, it is a mirrored map, so when I create maps for the mod, I intentionally take one side, I create it, and then I mirror it across, so that all the placement of resources, from everything from the boar, to the trees, to the deer, everything should match and be identical. Key points of interest on this map, you'll notice here that there are markets in each corner, which are neutral, which is a feature that I stole from AoE 4, which I kind of like, so you can trade on either market for either player. In the middle, you have a river kind of dividing either player up with a couple key points where you can use as choke points. Additionally, you see these pads on the map. These are road tiles, and these are places where you can build a wonder. They're the only locations on the map that wonders can be built. But this one's kind of intriguing because there's two different locations, so where you choose to build it is strategically important. The other thing that you'll note here on this map is that there are a lot of elevation points.
Yeah.
And so this is a more defensive style map. You're a little bit further away from your opponent, being in the corners, and you can use the terrain elevation to your advantage to try to get good critical hill advantage when you're taking fights, things like that.
All right, let's see it. Pwner of Souls versus Sad Bear. Fire away whenever you're ready.
All right, so starting in the left-hand side is myself, Pwner of Souls. I'm blue. I'm playing as the Americas Civ. Immediately, you'll notice that this is not a typical Age of Empires start. I got a monk walking out of my base. I've got a bunch of herdables and 30 villagers at the start here. So in EMPIRECRAFT, each civilization does start with 30 villagers, sometimes a few more. And you start with 10 herdables, and then they also have 30 villagers at the start. They also start with a unique scouting unit as well. So on this side, we have the Vikings, which start out with a Huskarl, and he's immediately going to plop down an outpost here for some vision. It is the Sergeant. I've renamed it to the Huskarl in the mod.
So the resource distribution is really interesting too. You have way more villagers on stone, like dramatically more, and you only have one small gold pile near the base. Could you tell us more about that?
Each base starts with one gold pad next to the TC. This is your starting gold. You get 1,000 gold. And then after that, you're on your own for finding out how to get gold. Typically, or the best way to get gold is to just trade with the neutral market. However, since that's very exposed and out in the map, that can be kind of a tedious and risky task. You can also collect relics, and then other civs have different bonuses that they utilize in order to get gold. So coming up on my side here, you can see that I'm researching gold mining tools, which is a lot like the Pole's gold mining tech. So once this researches, I'm going to get a percentage of my stone mining as gold, which is a good boost for the Americas.
Yeah.
So, as such, a lot of their units are more weighted towards being gold costing. Also coming up for my side in the Americas here, I'm building a monastery, which has now got the Aztec Wonder skin on it. So you'll see it's quite a hefty footprint. In addition to being a normal monastery, it also has a giant radius around it that has an aura that speeds up all of my units. Within I think it's a 50 tile radius.
Wow.
And then the relic bonus, is multiplied by quite a bit. So my relic income will be considerable once that gets up and running here.
Yeah, hot damn. So this seems like a great opportunity to talk about the individual civilizations a little bit as is relevant. Let's begin with the Americas, I guess, since that's the one you're playing. For the Americas, what are the most relevant things about their overarching game plan that we're going to see? Besides them having a monastery very early on and being really gold focused, that's very interesting. What else should we be looking for here?
Yeah, absolutely. You'll notice that a lot of their units are very weak compared to other civs. So a lot of that is I tried to design them in a way where they have a lot of low barriers to technology. Like they don't have a lot of armor techs, they don't have a lot of eco techs. But what they do have are certain things that help boost their production or their speed. And so one of those is they have, instead of getting your normal iron casting technologies, you get stone weapons and then later obsidian weapons once you get your university out. This not only gives you your normal +1 attack, but also increases the production of your infantry. So they produce faster. Right now, I'm just trying to get my early units out. I've got a Brave and an Eagle Warrior. So the Brave is a food-only unit, which is fairly weak, but trains extremely fast. And then I've got the Eagle Warrior, which is a golden food unit. And they train fairly fast as well, costing a little bit more gold, but also have a little bit of a bonus against cav and some decent pierce armor. So really good raiding units. And early on, I'm trying to get out on the map, trying to check around the map to see what Sad Bear might be up to.
Totally.
On the other side here, we have Sad Bears, the Vikings. Now, since they're a little bit more gold dependent later on in the game, they have some earlier units that are their trash units. For instance, this sergeant here only costs wood and food. I have named it the Huskarl Nomad, though.
Nice.
Yep. And then we have Berserks and Throwing Axemen. So these are all of their early barracks units. Now, you also, some people might be a little bit confused here. You'll see this fall work. I've actually reskinned their barracks as the fall work here, and I call it the Longhouse. So that's what he's producing units from. It's actually pretty interesting. The Longhouse is very similar to the Longhouse in Age of Mythology, where you produce your first 3 infantry units and then also your raiding cavalry starting unit.
Oh, I see. So you're just pressuring their base right now. I don't know if that was just you got really lucky and hit it before the villager could build too much, but how easy is it to get through a building wall in EMPIRECRAFT?
They're like tissue paper.
I see.
Yeah, houses are no longer a viable source of walling. You see that villager did hit a couple of times. Actually, we can go back a little bit here. As I'm running up here, he gets a couple of hits on that. Now, normally in Age of Empires, that would deter you. A couple of units early on in the game would not be able to break through. But in EMPIRECRAFT, the HP of houses is extremely low.
Yeah.
And units have higher attack in the beginning. So if you have enough units comparable to villagers, you can pretty easily burst through a house, and that won't stop you as you're trying to poke in here.
Totally.
Now, however, Sad Bear is using a lot of units to deter me, which is usually way more effective in EMPIRECRAFT, having more units to kind of ward off an attack like that, especially one where I don't have as many coming in. Another thing about the mod that's interesting is that there are not a lot of early defensive structures, so units are still the best way to go. There's not a lot of early tower options or walling options, and even the walling options that are available, like palisade walls and gates, aren't as strong and are more expensive than in the normal game.
That's really interesting. It looks like he's building up a castle of some kind. Can you tell us about that?
Yep. So in EMPIRECRAFT, each player gets 1 castle per game. You can rebuild your castle if it gets destroyed. So I've parked mine out here on a cliff area, trying to protect this portion of the map, and one of the kind of key entryways into my bases. He's putting his very close to this hunt over here. So you can see that his play style with Vikings right now is very defensive, because he's concerned that my fast-moving Eagle Warriors are going to get into his base and rack up a lot of kills on his villagers here. So he's playing much more of like a walled-off base style, but he's still trying to get this area locked down so that eventually he can go for this hunt and really turbocharge his food.
Yeah, it seems like he's doing a great job of massing up his army. Like, he has pretty substantial numbers. Would you mind telling us a little more about the Viking faction in general?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of their key technologies that they get for their villagers is they can increase their building speed. And their building speeds are already generally fairly low, so you can get buildings out a lot faster, but the buildings overall are generally weaker and cheaper. So for them, a good strategy like he's got going up here is to just mass up barracks so that he can try to get his production up to a level where mine is, because mine is inherently going to be faster because I'm playing Americas.
Mm-hmm. And you said that the army comp is more trash oriented for Vikings overall. What is the general army comp matchup between Americas and Vikings, if you had to simplify it?
Probably early on, he's going to just mix in a bunch of throwing axemen with the Huskarl. because the Huskarl is just a food and wood unit, and the Throwing Axeman is gold. You got a lot of melee damage here, which is fine, because a lot of the America units have really low normal infantry armor. So that's going to be perfectly fine. It's not like he needs to, mix in any kind of archery or pierce units to try to deal with my guys. They're all going to do pretty good. Additionally, in this, the Throwing Axemen use the same upgrades for attack as other infantry, and they also receive some of the infantry upgrades to health as well. So by going this comp, you've got, all the units are kind of using the same technologies for upgrading, so everybody's getting those enhancements at the same time here. So it's a pretty good comp. And then in addition, he's mixing in a couple berserks, which are just essentially all around better than the Huskarl here as he gets gold. So
Interesting.
in addition, I think he's saving up gold. He did a different thing than what I was expecting. So at the castle, they have a unit called the Jarl, which is essentially like a reskinned boyar in terms of stats. So I was assuming he's saving up gold in this early game so he can get them out. And that's why I've got a lot of these eagles, so I can try to take out his heavy cav if he brings those out, because they can do a pretty good job chasing down my units and are pretty tanky.
Yeah, the units not only move pretty fast, and the Americas seem to have a quick army, but ranges on ranged units seem much lower than in the base game. Is that the case?
Ranges are actually about the same as the base game, and maybe increased by a bit. One of the things I did change about them, though, is the line of sight. So I'll turn on line of sight real quick. You can see early on in the game, line of sight for basic units is very good. So I enhanced most line of sight for infantry by quite a bit, and then I increased cavalry significantly more than even infantry, so that in a normal game, you wouldn't have this much visibility of the base. So when you're diving in, you can see a lot more. When you're at home, you can also see a lot further out into the map. And then in addition to that, your town center upgrades like Town Watch also enhance all of your military units, so you can further increase their line of sight. In addition to the normal archer upgrades, there's a few more. So when we go into the tech tree, I can show you there's some additional enhancements, not only to their range, but also archer attack speed as the game goes on.
Totally. I just saw a trade cart come out for Sad Bear. Is that an unconventional play? Because it seems really risky at this stage of the game.
Yeah, at this point, I think he's just trying to get some gold any way that he can. One of the other ways the Vikings can get gold are by attacking buildings, and I don't think he's wanting to risk generating gold that way just yet, because that would probably lose him a lot of army.
Yeah.
What he is doing, though, is he's going to start transitioning into some cavalry here. So this is the Jarl, and this is going to be a food and wood unit. So it's a light cavalry, kind of replacing the light cav for their civ. And he's going to be going across the map here. He's done a nice job with his starting Huskarl building outposts across the bottom, try to get some vision here. So now he's going to be doing some cleanup on the bottom here, going after my extremely greedy expansions here as I'm going for multiple hunts.
Yeah.
I'm going to be going into his base. I just broke down a palisade, and I'm coming in trying to take out his market.
Villagers absolutely melt, I'm noticing.
Yeah, and I'm a terrible remember of getting my loom, so I'm really paying for it here.
Yep. Oh, that's so rough. And it looks like you're picking up what looks like Bracer, but is probably something else in EMPIRECRAFT.
It is Bracer, but it has different effects.
Yeah.
So it kind of is a parallel tech tree to fletching and those technologies. So I'm recognizing my mistake here, pulling some Jaguar Warriors in. In the mod, Jaguar Warriors get enhanced bonus damage against cavalry and certain techs in the university, so trying to commit only a couple units to try to clean that up, and then looking for additional ways where I can try to poke in. One of my objectives here too, I'm trying to take out this outpost, try to deny some vision so I can continue to go around and shark his base for openings.
Typically denying vision is not something I hear people doing quite as much in AoE 2, but is something I have heard people do in StarCraft 2. So is vision like at a level of importance that I've seen in professional StarCraft?
It can be somewhat important. So you see how Sadbear wants this vision of the bottom portion. He's expecting me to try to go for some of these hunts, and then this vision here kind of helps him get some notice of his castle. And I would say, yes, vision is a lot more important, because being out of position in EMPIRECRAFT is much more of a problem than in normal AoE. Because I feel like in normal AoE, you have a lot more chances to stall out with your buildings, with walling, and other things to try to prevent any kind of damage to be done while you're getting your army back into place. So for instance, his army's still trying to get into position. He's not sure where I'm coming from, but he's sharking my base, simultaneously here, trying to find some openings. Trying to deny the hunt is a big strat. Trying to push him off of hunts and idle his economy is very important here. He's doing the same, trying to find some openings, and I'm trying to forward him back over here and keep him off of my villagers that are hunting. And then I'm also trying to deny his vision of the bottom portion in case I want to start up my own trade. So it's kind of one of the things that I haven't done is I have not started up my trade yet because it's a little bit dicey at this point. He's been sharking me with some cavalry, and he also has pretty good vision of the bottom portion of the map. So
Yeah.
I have been kind of hesitant to push out. Next coming up for me, I'm building what's called the Terrace, which is a secondary castle for the Americas. So they kind of cheat a little bit. They get 2 castles. And this one unlocks their final barracks unit, the Destroyer, which is their anti-building unit of the mod. So unlike other civs, they do not have a siege unit. They just have what's called the Destroyer, another AOM reference. But
Big crash coming in here. So obviously he's going to try to deny your terrace. Walk us through this battle as it takes place, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm coming in here. I've got some heavy infantry with my Jag Warriors. However, they don't have nearly the armor that the other guys do, so they're going to take a lot of damage from these throwing axes. I'm trying to pick up as many converts as I can with my 2 monks, and just trying to do something. I'm pulling in my slingers, which have some pierce damage. However, he's already got most of his pierce armor techs, so slingers aren't going to do that much.
Yeah.
And yeah, basically, I'm just trying to hang on here as best I can. With the slinger units, they're just a lot lower on health, so basically, I'm just trying to hang on as best I can.
Yeah, it seems like his vill advantage is pretty substantial. How much will a vill advantage like that swing the game? Is it the sort of thing that, like, even since you're much higher in military, do you think that's going to be able to recomp? Because I know that in AoE2, conventionally, a 40 vill advantage is, like, backbreaking.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's pretty significant. So, yeah, he's doing a great job here. He's going to start being able to produce a lot more because he's going to keep all of his barracks working simultaneously. So I think he gets up to about 5 barracks here, and he's constantly got production going, and he can keep that production going because of his base of villagers here. He's got a lot of food covered, a lot of wood. So a lot of his trash units, like the Jarl, which I renamed the Thane, are going to be able to be produced. And this is where I'm going to fall off quite a bit here because I'm significantly running low on food here because he's been able to do a number on all of my hunters across the map here.
So tell us a little more about the soldiers in your army, like what their niches are. We've heard about Jags, we've heard about Eagles, we've heard about the Brave, but what about the Slingers and Plumes?
Yeah, so Plumes are just they're like a Plume in the normal game, fast-moving archer. They're to do harassment and also can be like a late game death ball unit if you get enough of them going. The monk is a key unit. You can see how the monks are moving really fast.
Yeah.
That is a enhancement that they get in this mod. They're actually upgraded to a unit called the priest, and they move about as quickly as all of your other fast moving America's infantry.
Nice.
In addition to that, they also have a bonus aura where they enhance the attack speed of all nearby infantry. So you always want to have at least a couple of them. I'm keeping at least 2 in my comp at any given time so that I can increase their attack speed and when I take engagements.
Yeah. It seems like he's just trying to use this mobility to get around your main battle line, keep you off of his front so that he can mass up more and then try to raid your eco. Is that roughly correct, you think?
Yep, absolutely. So he's just trying to keep me away from his eco. See, I'm taking pretty good fights here, even though I'm heavily outnumbered due to the Eagles having pretty good cavalry bonus attack. He's going also in, trying to get the rest of my villagers here. I think I finally catch him in time. So I see this wave of cavalry coming in. We drop a TC, the only viable quick wall method at the moment. But it requires a lot of villagers just because building times are heavily increased. But simultaneously with that wave, he's kind of using that to hide this massive infantry army that's coming in, which is, if it was just the cavalry, probably could have dealt with that okay, but this infantry backing it up is pretty bad. And so I've got a choice here. I've got my main army down below. I can either try to bring him back and defend, but I think in a second here I'm going to go in and try to take a fight. Also, he's cleaning up my last couple of villagers that I unfortunately built a mill instead of a stone mine.
Oh.
I did not get the benefit of that last stone that I needed, unfortunately.
We've all been there.
Yep. But as you can see, there's so many things going on in the map. It's easy to make mistakes like that because you're managing, a lot of different economic stuff going on. There's lots of battles raging. I'm fighting in several different places. I'm trying to dive in at the same time, maybe try to get his army to come back home. But he's already got pretty good forces here waiting for me to try to tank this. Still managing to clean up most of my base here, taking out of barracks. I'm pulling villagers back in to try to get some arrow fire coming out of the TC. My armies are getting split up down here, trying to do as much economic damage as I can. Here I have 9 stone left. So unfortunately, because I didn't get that stone, I don't even have enough stone to place down a stone mining camp.
No.
So I mean, a little bit of a pickle, because instead of costing the normal 100 wood, it costs 50 stone and 50 wood.
I see. Yeah, and since you were prioritizing stone from the very beginning of the game, I infer that many buildings take stone.
Yes, many of them do, especially in the Americas. They are very stone heavy. So here I'm able to at least eject his villagers and get 1 TC, but it's not looking good. I'm microing, trying to get as many of his units picked up as I can, getting a conversion here and there to try to stabilize, but
yeah,
it's
this is really showing just how hard it is to defend a base. The actual defensive capacity of your base building wise is almost nil from what I'm seeing, even with like towers and castles and stuff.
Yep. And I didn't do a very good job in this map laying it out. I left myself fairly open, thinking that, I was mostly going to be on the aggressive in this, so I didn't prioritize trying to do any significant base building. I go picking up 2 additional converts here, trying to fight off his last couple of guys. When he gets this last market, I'm pretty much toast here, because now I can't even buy the stone I need.
Yeah.
So my best bet is some long-range stone mining.
Do you have any chance to base race, or is that is his base just too robust at this point?
It's too good. He's had too many units in his base to help fight me back, and the TCs are just raking me right now. So unfortunately, I'm able to push a little bit more, but I'm running out of steam here. I needed significantly more, and he's continuing to mass up and fight my guys. So even though my Jags are pretty tanky, still taking some significant losses. Not only that, the longer he gets to raid my base, the longer his gold is going to rack up. So
I forgot about that.
Melee hit is racking up some juicy gold for him here. So it's further putting me behind the longer that he gets to raid my base too. So
that's brutal.
Base trading the Vikings is a very poor way to go.
In a position like this, assuming you were able to clear the enemy out of your base, what options would you have to try to claw back into the game?
Yeah, so that's a good thought. Probably at this point, I'm so behind in villagers, there's not much chance I have, and especially because of Americas and lacking the stone, that's pretty difficult. However, my one advantage is I do have a lot of relic income, so my relic income continues to shoot up. So right now my late game comp is I'm mostly relying on archers and monks to stay alive into the game, and maybe I could move some of my villagers off into food. So I could either try to plop a lot of farms down in my base, which would take up a lot of space, or I could try to go for the riskier hunts, which if I could get access to some of the hunts here, that would give me a significant amount of food to come back and pull myself up. But at this point, it's going to be pretty challenging.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, there's a GG. Excuse me.
There's a GG. I think we put out shortly after that. But yeah, for fighting the Vikings, I think early monks are good. Try to get as many converts as you can early on, because you can get your monastery down, start generating that gold from relics as quickly as possible. Next thing I would go for is just a lot of eagle warriors. You want to be very aggressive and try to find those weak openings in the base where you can raid, and also use that speed to your advantage. And that'd be one thing. Later into the game, I would say a good idea might be to go for a lot of the Jaguar warriors in addition to that, and you just have to mass them up. So what I should have done here is probably should have gone for earlier trading as well, and then I could have really massed out the Jaguar warriors. And then the other thing that would have been helpful is to get a lot more of the Braves out earlier when I had a lot more of the food available, and just try to win through sheer numbers.
Yeah. Do you find that as the Americas, you especially versus the Vikings, you want to play an early game and just try to overwhelm them super fast before they can get to their strong comp?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think you want to get as much army massed up as quickly as you can, so you can try to take the best fights as early as possible
Yeah.
when their armor is the lowest as well. So
Looking at these statistics, it looks like your initial instinct was right. He made a ton of the Jarl units.
yes, he did. He used quite a bit, lost a bit to my eagles, but still the damage was done. He just had to hit the villagers,
Yep.
which is my weak point on all those hunts. So
Ah,
he did a great job at that. And then his other unit, the sergeant, which I've renamed the Huskarl, so building a lot of those leans very much into his more defensive style he played against the Americas here, where he's just going for that wood, just going for that food,
mhm.
and just having a buffer of those at any given time to help, dissuade me from diving in and trying to
Yep.
get as many kills.
Just keep you out of the base. That makes sense. That's awesome. Well, GG Pwner, GG Sadbear. That was super fun to watch, and it really showed off how quick these games are. Would you mind if we went through the tech trees for the Americas, and then for the Vikings, and then for some of the others?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, so we'll jump into the Vikings here. They are a infantry raider civilization, as you can see here. The Huskarls can assist with other building structures. So unlike the normal game, they build a outpost instead of the donjon. So initially, their early niche is to get as much vision on the map as possible.
Hmm.
In addition to that, they can help build other structures. The
Oh, so
other,
they can jump in on a foundation?
yeah,
That's so
once the
cool.
foundation's down, they can jump on anything. So you can even have a villager start a foundation from across the map, and then they can all jump on it wherever they're at. So
Oh, cool.
kind of a niche cool thing that they get. Their longhouses also can be used as a food drop-off. Hill forts have an increased healing rate and can be garrisoned into. And then they have a tower house, which replaces the university. Generate that gold when attacking. So their comp is they have the Huskarl, they have Throwing Axemen, which is a wood and gold unit, and then the Berserkers. Berserkers have to be built after you have a monastery down. And then
Mhm.
they have the Thane, which requires a blacksmith to be built. For their hill fort, which is their siege workshop / archer range, you have the battering ram, crossbowmen, and then the siege ballista. So that's their long range siege unit, but also still works like a typical scorpion, where the projectiles will hit multiple targets.
Hmm.
For the castle, you have the Jarl, which is very much like a boyar. For techs in the castle, you've got your supplies and revelries, which are all infantry HP boostings. And then supplies also boosts infantry and skirmishers. Drills,
Just to
which
clarify, when you say skirmishers, does that mean like ranged infantry, like throwing axemen, or is that a different unit?
it does. Yeah, so the
Heavy
throwing
infantry
axeman
skirmisher, I see.
is now a heavy infantry skirmisher. Yep. You'll also notice that there's only two different kinds of armor. There's the scale mail armor route and then the padded armor. So in this mod, there's only heavy armor and light armor, and units either fall into one of those two categories or
Mm-hmm.
none. And so there's not this, infantry, cavalry, and archers. So all of your units will have these, kind of dichotomies. So, for instance, the Huskarl, heavy infantry, Throwing Axemen, heavy infantry, Berserk, heavy infantry. Crossbowman is a light crossbowman unit, so it would definitely qualify under that light armor
Yeah.
category.
So the Vikings seem to be mostly a heavy armor faction.
Yep, absolutely. That's where I was saying earlier on, a lot of their synergy comes from most of their units benefit from forging and the scale mail armor early on. So if you're getting those two techs, you're benefiting everybody in your comp. In
Awesome.
addition to that, yeah, they have fletching, bodkin arrow, and then I have another tech down here called heavy draw, which is just additional attack and range. And then they also can a tech called crossbow armory, which allows their crossbowmen to be trained faster and fire 10% faster. So in this mod, crossbowmen and archers are split. So there's a archer, tech tree line, and then a crossbowman tech tree line specific to them, but they share the fletching.
Fantastic. Split just as they should be.
Yes, amen. Additionally, they have light throwing weapons, which gives all foot skirmishers increased movement speed and additional range. So definitely a good one for the throwing axemen later on into the game. For the dock, they have fishing ships and longboats. In the mod, all warships act both as their military boats and transports,
Mhm.
and require additional population. University or tower house here, they have Hammer of the Gods, allows their Huskarls to build faster. Hardened bolts gives additional bonus damage with the ballista against buildings. And in addition, Bearded Axe, which gives Huskarls the +2 bonus damage and 3 resistance against cavalry. So excellent late game tech for the Huskarl unit. A lot of the civilizations have gaps or they're missing things or don't have a perfect tech tree. Like there's no, pike unit, sword unit, archer and skirmisher. So you definitely have to play around with the compositions because they're radically different for each civilization. So, and I think that's very good. I think that's what, Age Mythology early on did. You have a lot of these comps where you kind of have to figure out what works and play around with their deficiencies or things that they might be missing. So then switching then into Americas, so their buildings tend to cost more stone than lumber. They have a temple that increases unit speed within 30 tile radius. Their terrace also has a aura that increases farmer work rate in addition to being a secondary castle.
Nice.
And then they have their stone and obsidian weapons that increase unit creation speed. Their castle unit is the Kamiuk, and their unique techs we'll get into a little bit later, but their comp works like this. They have a barracks and an archery range. They can also convert stables to be able to produce Zalata warriors. So their composition is this. They have a brave, which is a very cheap early infantry unit that's very weak. Then the Eagle Warrior, which is food and gold, but a anti-monk, very fast, slightly anti-cavalry unit. The Jaguar Warrior, which is also gold and food, but a heavy infantry with 90 starting health, also very low armor. And then the Destroyer, which is their siege unit. So instead of having rams or onagers or trebuchets, they just have the Destroyer.
Yep.
A lot of people ask me, how is that possible? You can have civilizations with no siege. And part of that is some of the way I've reworked some of the text here. So you notice that early on in the game, you have sappers available to you.
Mm-hmm.
Sappers has now been reworked and is at the blacksmith. It gives your normal villager their 15 bonus damage versus buildings, but it also gives infantry a +6 damage versus buildings and +2 against castles.
And all that on top of buildings being way, way more vulnerable.
Yes, makes it so that siege is very optional in EMPIRECRAFT. So you can go for siege if you need to, ensure that you take a particular area, or you can rely on your unit composition to kind of do a lot of that heavy lifting for you, especially if you think you have a really good numbers advantage. So you don't always have to wait for siege units to show up to be able to, take a favorable engagement, especially in your enemy's base. Sometimes you can burst things down if you just have enough guys available. Also, you can see their stone weapons, and the obsidian weapons replaces their iron forging technologies, and just gives their infantry that +1 attack, but also increased unit creation speed. So first one, +1 attack, 10% creation faster, and then +1 same attack. So it could really stack up, so you can be spitting out a lot of units very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Also, you can see here the archer side of things. Instead of them having crossbowmen, they have bracer, and then later on they get thumb ring. So bracer and thumb ring are all +1 range, +10% accuracy, and then -5% attack reload time, which is faster attack speed.
Kind of as a replacement for civilizations that don't get crossbow units?
Correct. Yep. So anybody that doesn't have a crossbow unit would get these technologies. So their archers not only will shoot further, but faster.
Since you didn't touch upon it earlier, could you tell us more about the Kamiuk? Because we only briefly got to see that in game.
Yeah, absolutely. So they get the Kamiuk. Kamiuk does start with its normal 1 range, and it's mostly unmodified, except that it is a food and wood unit in the mod. So it's much more of a trash unit, anti-cavalry. Lots of anti-cavalry bonus, also +10 against elephants.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to that, there are techs in the blacksmith called long pikes, which give all spearmen 0.07 max range and 2 bonus damage against cavalry and cavalry archers. So you can further increase your Kamiuk range by researching this tech, make them extra scary. 0.7, when I played around with that, is basically just enough to get you past another guy in front of you to the next guy. So, for instance, if you are attacking a pikeman, he can attack you, and then his buddy behind him can help him out and also attack you.
Mm-hmm.
So just that little bit of range is actually very scary. So most civs in the mod have long pikes, and their pikemen are very scary. They have a temple instead of a monastery, which you saw there, so it takes up a lot more room on the map. And then their other structures, so instead of a siege workshop, they get the terrace, which is the wonder of the Incas. So a bigger building, shoots arrows, can garrison villagers. So they kind of get a secondary castle in the mod.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Let's hear about one of the other civs.
All right. We'll go next to Franks. So Franks are very much more like trying to be the vanilla civ in the mod. So cavalry and archer civilization. A lot of their units are many of the standard units in the game, with a few exceptions here. You'll also notice that I split the militia, the pikemen, and the sergeant at arms.
Mm-hmm.
None of the units upgrade into one another, so they all represent, different things. And they do different things. So, for instance, the militia is actually a trash unit. It's only 30 food, 15 wood, but it has the Obuk ability where it can
Yeah,
strip pierce armor
that
off.
sounds amazing.
Yes, it is. So early in the game, if you have very heavy armored units, you can mix in a couple of those guys to make the rest of your units very much more effective against them. Really, where they shine is for civs that have early heavy infantry that
Like
have
the
lots of
Vikings?
armor, like the Vikings. So
Mm.
with the Franks, you'd want to mix in a bunch of militia with your pikemen, try to get their armor down so your pikemen can, stab through in mass numbers, or you can clean them up with your sergeants. So however, the militia die really fast, so you
Yep.
got to take that into account. So it's all part of the matchup. Now against Americas, you definitely wouldn't want to build them because they wouldn't do anything. They don't have any armor to begin with. So anyways, then we got pikemen, sergeant at arms. They do have the longbowmen as their main archer, and then their stable is the light cav, which I've renamed the Hoblar and Knight. Knights do require your castle to be constructed in order for them to be built.
Yep,
So
and
you kind of
knights
see
look
that as,
knights look pretty much identical except for like plus 20 HP. So knight with bloodlines.
yeah, it's knight with bloodlines. However, they still do get bloodlines in other techs. They get at their castle, they get a unit called the Lancer, which is just a reskinned
Lightest.
lightest.
Nice.
Yep. So techs ignore the enemy armor. Their interesting thing is they do get the trebuchet once you have a university on the map. If your university gets destroyed, you do have to rebuild a new one.
Mm-hmm.
And they get the Scorpion and Siege Ram as their siege units.
Yep. So they have a pretty substantial siege arsenal.
Absolutely. Plus a very extensive tech tree. So for
Yeah.
the Franks, you definitely want to kill them as early as you can. In addition to that, they get bloodlines and then another tech called selective breeding, which gives them an additional 10 HP on top of the other 20. Um, and then on top of all that, there's more. They get destriers, so all of their heavy cavalry gain trample damage. So,
Oh goodness.
yeah, makes them even scarier in late game if you can survive long enough to get to it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So a true late game civilization.
Absolutely. Yep. For their other techs, they have the Liege Lord. So that's your starting unit for them, which is a heavy cavalry unit. It also has an aura that increases your military building production rate by 15%.
That's
And they
sick.
also increase, yeah, there to just boost out your units early on, which is definitely very much needed for them. Also increases their infantry and archer movement speed. So if you're traveling with one of them, they get a really fast movement. So if you're moving with a bunch of longbowmen or pikemen, you can move them around the map much more quickly.
I see. And you can only have a finite number of these guys.
Correct. Yeah, you can only have at any given time 3 of them out on the map until you research the tech at the castle for peerage. So once you get peerage, then you can increase that from 3 to 7.
Tell me about the wonders. Like, what do wonders do in EMPIRECRAFT? And then, of course, how are the Franks' wonders different?
Yeah, absolutely. So they're kind of unique where they get 2 different wonders. They get the cathedral. In EMPIRECRAFT, both Wonder Victory and Relic Victory are turned on. So their wonder bonus, you have monks and missionaries convert much faster and can also convert buildings.
Ooh, cool.
So it's an almost instantaneous conversion then for monks with the cathedral. The citadel is basically another castle. So it fires arrows and it trains paladins, which have a starting 160 health.
I see. So, and does every single wonder in the game have unique effects?
It does. The America's Wonder, for instance, is Great Calendar. Military units gain bonus damage against walls and castles. Infantry gain plus 20, archers plus 10, naval units plus 15.
Oh my god, that's insane. So you can just
Yeah.
melt, like, fortifications with archers.
Yes.
Jeez.
So all your units, yeah. So each of the wonders is kind of meant to close out the game and give you something that's just ridiculously strong.
And what about for the Vikings?
Vikings get the Hall of Valhalla, where their skirmishers, crossbowmen, and cavalry get plus 3 attack and health regeneration.
So everything just gets insane.
Everything gets insane. Yep.
Sick. The fact that your wonders have individual powers is very fortuitous. At the time that this is recorded, it has not been, but by the time this goes out, it will have been released. That I made a video with Admiral Wololo talking about wonder powers. And so it's really awesome to see that you've done the same thing in this mod too.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, I really like that. All right, I'll move on.
Byzantines?
Yeah, we'll do Byzantines next. So Byzantines, cavalry, and mercenary civilization. They have one town center, which is a castle, and they have only a couple units in each building. So you definitely need, you know, each individual depending on your strategy they're going. They get the Scudetoi, which is a trash unit, wooden food, Hexatoi, wooden gold, and then they have the Pronai and Cataphract. So Cataphract is mostly like a normal Cataphract, and then Pronai is just a light cavalry that also costs wood.
Mm.
And then they get the heavy cavalry archers, their castle unit. Some neat things about them. Once you build the castle, then you can also build the hippodrome, which allows you to create chariot teams, which have a lot of bonus damage to infantry and archers, and also have mega trample damage.
Ooh, cool.
Their siege workshop has the flamethrower and the siege onager, which instead of firing a normal, scatter shot projectiles, just fires one big stone. Stone mining techs, stone shaft mining, so allows them to get additional stone while mining so that it lasts longer.
Oh yeah, last longer. That's been something I've seen proposed for the shaft mining techs in game as of now, which I think would be an awesome change since it would help prevent Malthusian late games and make the shaft mining technologies more interesting.
For a lot of the stone heavy civilizations like Americas and Byzantines, it helps them get more stone so that they don't have to be out in the map as much, potentially getting killed by somebody's light cavalry like I was. So
Nice. Then you got two dock units for them.
Yep, Fire Galley, and they got the Droneman. For their unique techs, they get Fire Siphon. So flamethrowers and fire galleys get +1 range and attack faster. They also are technically camel civs. They get war camels. They get resistance for their camels, and then Parthian Tactics, which I flipped a little bit. Parthian Tactics just gives you faster frame delay.
Nice.
Which, if people don't know what that is, it's basically the time when your unit is idle to them firing a shot is shorter.
Yep.
So they immediately, they can be microed essentially a lot faster. And then we have the Kantarian, so they get a shield that's rechargeable that blocks a single projectile for their infantry. So at the TC, they get a Governor, which is their aura unit. So it increases builder work rate and also increases attack speed of infantry, archers, and cavalry. So very important to have one of those.
I loved that
they
unit when I saw it. It was such a cool idea. One of the things that at first made me be like, nice. The fact that you start with one of these changes the early game so much.
Absolutely. Yeah, everyone gets something unique. They also get mercenaries, so they get Varangian Guard, Dromedary, and then the Lantincon, which is just like a heavy knight. And each of these only costs gold, but they train instantly.
Ooh,
and they
cool.
train from your 1 TC. Yes.
So your 1
game,
TC, they cannot build more town centers.
They cannot.
Wow. What happens if it's destroyed? Can you rebuild it?
You can rebuild it.
I see, I see. That's so cool.
But it's kind of, for the Byzantines, I thought it'd be an interesting thing because they have a lot of really powerful units, but you have to really survive early. But it also kind of reflects them as a civilization where, like, as they aged, they kind of fell apart, as a people in a civilization. So I kind of wanted that represented as part of this. Their wonder is called the Holy Wisdom.
Yep.
So all land units gain 2 melee and pierce armor.
Ooh, that's pretty substantial.
Yes. Especially they have a lot of tanky stuff. All right, moving then to Indus. They have Arumi Swordsman, Indus Spearman, and then the Chakram Thrower at their barracks. Then they're kind of a funky civ. Each of their different things, the Palace, the Rajput Stronghold, and the Red Fort are all their archery range, stables, and their siege workshop, and you only get one of them, and they're each a castle.
Oh wow! So they have like 4 castle type buildings.
They do. So they get each of the unique castles from the Dynasties of India expansion.
Cool.
As their different buildings. Yeah. So the other cool thing is that every time you build a new one, the other ones gain the unit from it that the other one has. So for instance, if you build the Palace and the Rajput Stronghold, each one of them can now produce elephant archers or the Rajput.
Nice, that's awesome. Something I also noticed on the bonus box is that they get the Chinese start, but given that you start with so many villagers, how much does that Chinese start matter?
Not a whole lot. It's really not that helpful. What's really good for them is that they can assign a lot of people to stone and a lot of people to building early on.
Yeah.
Which is helpful, and getting a barracks down. They're very aggressive. They're probably one of the most aggressive civs in the game, just because the Arumis and the Indus Spearmen are very oppressive, very cheap, and you can spam them very fast. and then back them up with chakram throwers, which are really good early on. Ratha, their only siege unit is at the Red Fort. They get the War Elephant as their siege unit. Also can be built very quickly. Red Fort only requires the blacksmith, so pretty early comp that you can do is build a couple barracks, get a blacksmith out, and then throw down your Red Fort, and then be into War Elephants within like the first 5 to 10 minutes of each match.
Spooky. Jeez.
So yeah, very scary. Mercifully, a lot of things have bonus damage against the War Elephant, like
Mm-hmm.
the skirmisher units. They get the Thrist die and the Catamaran. You can transport units. Any archers, villagers you put into warships also increase the number of arrows they shoot. And the castle can also upgrade infantry to do the same with a technology called battle stations. Technologies are tusk swords. Elephants get plus 20 bonus damage against castles. Elephant armor. Elephants get 2 melee and 2 pierce armor. War camels. And then my favorite one, Rampage. When a War Elephant dies, they come back as a 100 hit point Death Elephant, basically, and are immune to conversion, increased speed, increased damage, and eventually will die after a couple of seconds. But still, for that short time, they can dish it out pretty
That's
good.
so cool.
They also have a tech called Urbanization, where villagers take up less population space. They also get the Caravanserai after the market's built, and their Caravanserai will build the Shavamsha Rider very quickly, which is now a trash unit in the mod, only costing 75 food. They also have a passive gold trickle as you build more and more of them.
Nice. Okay, wow. What's their wonder do?
Seat of Power, all castle units train much faster.
Nice.
Just
Spam
pump
the
those
elephants.
elephants out. Just more elephants.
This seems like the one I would probably play the most if I were to play. It's most
This is
in line
Sad
with my
Bear's
style.
favorite. Yeah, this is Sad Bear's favorite civ. He loves it. I got the Moors, which is very much like the Wikipedia Africa civilization here. Yeah, definitely not anywhere near Tales of Gold, but you got the Huntress.
Thanks, man.
Dude, that was epic, by the way.
Thanks,
You
man.
got the Huntress,
Yep.
Zealot, and then the Ferraria.
Mhm.
The Huntress is a food-only light skirmisher. So it has all the skirmisher techs, very little attack, very low range, but super annoying and very hard to deal with early on.
Yep.
But die very quickly to most other units. The Zealot, which is a food and gold unit, kind of a trash unit because they get a lot of different ways to gain gold through the Moors. So you can span them out. They run very quickly. They're kind of like their equivalent of the Eagle Warrior, also being, conversion resistant and being good against monks, things like that. And then the Ferraria, which is their heavy infantry, which has on average more health than other heavier infantries in the game, in addition to armor. Then they also get the Zenata, which is the Genitor essentially, and the Tareg, which is the camel. They also can train water buffaloes for food. So
Oh,
out of your
sick.
stable, you can train those. They have Berber is their castle unit, which is the camel archer. Once the castle has been constructed, you can build a building called the Royal Gold Mine, which is a buildable gold mine. And will
Nice.
slowly
There we
over
fucking
time.
go. That's awesome.
They have the academy instead of a siege workshop, which allows them to create the Tamba, which is a heavy infantry spearman. The scholar, which is an aura unit, increases your building production rates and does not require population. However, you have a limit of them. And then they get the standard onager with a few additional things. They also get gold mining tools and gold prospecting, which increases the amount of gold that you gather while stone miners are mining. So they
Excellent.
have crazy good access to gold. Their monastery is super fun. They get the sorcerer. So the sorcerer is their knight and their monk.
That's
And
so
it has an
cool.
aura that heals units around it.
And you get it really early too.
You do. So they have unique texts called Sacrilege, where they get bonus damage against buildings, and Tribal Lore, where their healing rate is improved. Additionally, texts like Theocracy allow them to be created faster instead of giving them that monk ability, and Fervor also increases their movement speed, while Sanctity increases their health. So at their town center, their starting unit is the Overseer, which is, again, another aura unit, and it increases the civilian work rate by 10%. So by just plopping these guys around your base, your production increases. Their wonder is the Testament of Faith. It increases all of their attack speed for all their units. They also have another unique tech called Desert Navigators. So all their camel units get +3 LOS, so they can see large portions of the map with camel units. One thing I don't think I've mentioned before here too is that I've upgraded Heated Shot So heated shot now does this. Crossbowmen, archers, and scorpions gain additional attack versus buildings and ships.
Mm.
So you can close out the game with archers if you want to.
All right, what do we got next?
We got nomads. Nomads have a lot of different things going on in their main base. So they can make a packed TC as one of their main starting buildings. They have the raider, which can go around and abduct enemy villagers, and then they bring them back to their TC. They can convert them. They have the packed yurt, which can be sent out from the TC and turned into a house. The resource wagon, which is just like the Mountain Royals resource gathering point. They have no other structures like the stone mining camp or lumber camp.
Mm-hmm.
And then they also can build a packed stable and send those out onto the map and unpack them. Their barracks has the Barbarian, which is a food-only heavy infantry unit. Marauder, which is another trash unit but requires the castle. And then they get the Shaman, which is their monk unit.
Mm.
In addition to that, they get the Warlord at their Chieftain's tent. So, unlike other civs, their castle does not fire arrows. It's not a defensive building. You can garrison in it for the advanced healing rate, but it doesn't shoot anything.
Yeah.
So you have the Warlord, which is their aura unit, which increases the attack speed of nearby melee cavalry and infantry, and also turns into an infantry when dying. Their stable's pretty packed. Yeah, they get the Step Lancer, Genitor, Tarkin, and the Kipchak, in addition to being able to make pigs and horde horses, which every horde horse you generate reduces the building time for cavalry by 1 second. And when they die, it loses that effect.
And then the enemy has to find your herd and butcher them. That's so cool.
It is, yeah. So you kind of have to keep them alive. They also get, in addition to the normal sappers like everybody else, they also get pillage, which increases their raiding productivity. Shrine, they don't get much. Their shrine is also another aura unit. So the shrine has a healing radius around it. So all their units can stand next to it to heal. Instead of getting a dock, they get the cog, which is actually their main transport ship, fishing ship, and warship. You do have to micro it a little bit more in order to make it fish. But it basically does everything and is built from the shore by villagers.
Wow.
In addition, villagers can build a siege tower, and instead of their university, they have the ruined fortress, which is their castle equivalent, which trains all their cavalry technologies. They get Parthian tactics, like a lot of the other Cav Archer civs, but then once you research that, it unlocks Dark Riders, and Kipchaks fire 2 additional arrows. That's a AoE 1 reference.
Yep.
And then their main siege unit is the Catapult, again, is built on the map by villagers.
Jeez, this is such a unique... I feel like this one plays more differently than every other civilization you've shown me.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. And then their main wonder is the Treasure Hoard. So it just generates lots of gold. They do not get farms. Instead, they build pigs from their stable at the end game too. So you have to be constantly producing pigs if you want to have late game food eco.
Jeez. All right. And what's the last one we got?
Probably the most OP, according to most people that play the mod, is the Order. So this is the Templar Crusading Order civilization. Everything is built from their TC, which is now the Commandery. And in game, it looks like the Craypost.
Nice.
So they get the Order Footman, the Order Sergeant, Havis Crossbowman, and then the Pathfinder. They also get a unique tech called Scapular, which gives their villagers +1 melee and +1 pierce armor and 5 hit points. Other civilizations, you'd produce your units from barracks, archer range, and stable. These are just built to unlock units at your commandery.
Yeah.
So
can you
each
build
one
more
requires-
commanderies?
Absolutely. You can build as many as you want
Ooh.
and dot the map with them. So yeah, if left unchecked, they can just spread out and become a monster. Their unique unit is the Custier, and I also gave it an aura that increases the movement speed of infantry and archers. Instead of getting a siege workshops, they get a foundry, which is a unique castle I grabbed. And it doesn't actually work like a castle. It just builds siege units and can be garrisoned into, but build the wagon fort and the order bombard. They get the most extensive tech tree just about in the game, having access to most everything in there. They get the Karak and the Gallias, and then their monastery gets really wild. They have the chapter house, which can build sword brothers and knight brothers. So sword brothers are basically Teutonic knights that can pick up relics
Oh.
and drop them off at your chapter house. And then the Knight Brother is their knight. In addition to that, they get a unique tech called Oath of the Order, which makes them immune to conversion.
Both of those units.
Yes, and Theocracy, which also benefit their training speed, health, and whatnot.
Yep.
For unique techs, they don't have much at University, just they have Explosive Shot. And then their unique wonder is the Headquarters. So both the Templar and Cudier gain +2/+3 armor and are granted hero status.
Hero status. Nice. So they like regen and get more stats or something?
Yes, and can't be converted. And in addition, they have a manor, which is their unique mill, and any farms that are placed next to it generate +20 gold.
Oh, that's so cool.
They're one of the best civs for just kind of turtling up and letting their eco get built up. So
that's fantastic. Okay, I can see how these guys would be pretty scary. But you don't need to build any prerequisites to make more commanderies.
You do not. No,
I can see why people think these guys are terrifying and insane.
They are very terrifying. However, from numerous playtests, we've determined that they're actually not that terrifying if you really know what you're doing. So
yeah, they seem like a noob stomper.
Yes, very much so.
They would probably be the bane of my existence.
So there you have it. There are the 8 civilizations of EMPIRECRAFT.
They look fantastic. Thank you so much for this breakdown. It was fantastic to get to learn more about them and see the mod in action and learn more about it in its totality. For all those of you who are watching, please be sure, if you enjoy EMPIRECRAFT and want to try more of it, to follow the super well done and thorough steps I gave in my original video to learn how to download it. And also be sure to join the EMPIRECRAFT Discord. I will put a link in the description of this video as well as in the original video. Pwner, do you have any final thoughts, either follow-ups to the last video or thoughts about the mod in general or other things you'd like to convey to the audience?
No, I appreciate the opportunity to show a game of EMPIRECRAFT. If anyone wants to try it, feel free to join our Discord. And we have a lobby system in there to tell you if any games are currently being hosted. Feel free to jump in and say hi anytime.
Marvelous. Thank you all so much for taking the time to watch. I hope you have enjoyed. And as always, my name is Robbie Howell. And ciao for now.